Hey guys, so today is day 3 of Unit 1. We are going to be looking at where the 5 major religions of the world are in conflict around the world. We're going to start off with a modern day map so you can see where these religions have spread to. I think that will make it easier for you to be able to locate where some of these conflicts might be occurring as well. Just a housekeeping issue, if you have not already brought in your one subject notebook for your interactive notebook in my class, please make sure you get that done. You're going to need them starting next class. So it is imperative that you get that in. If it's a financial burden on your family, please let me know, and I'll see what I can do to help you out, okay? Thanks. Let's get started. All right, so the first thing you're going to see here is going to be the map. So your transparency map that you picked up when you came into class today, it needs to look just like mine. So with your group, go ahead and hit pause. You should have, after I've given you all the directions, hit pause then. Don't hit pause now. But you should have, each of you should have a set of markers with a red, a yellow, a green, an orange, and a blue. Make sure you're using the same color codings for the religions as I have done here on this map. If you are confused, it's hard to see, you have a question, you can't find something, raise your hand and I will come over and help you in just a moment, okay? After everyone has the map completed, please make sure you click on the link in the animated map and watch the quick clip. It gives you a really cool visual representation of how these religions spread. It gives you a timeline as well. Pretty neat. Once all of you have, at the station, you've completed both of these tasks, I want you to take a minute to discuss with your group members where you think some conflicts might be occurring and what religions you think may be in conflict by comparing your map. So hit pause now and do all of that for me, okay? All right, so let's get started with the Middle East. That's where we're going to start off today. If you stop and think about the notes that we've already taken on these religions, there's something that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they all have in common. And it's not as simple as, oh, well, Mrs. Roach, they're all monotheistic. Yes, they are. But there's something else that they all have in common. Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a city of importance to all 3 of these faiths. So while all 3 religions are in conflict, it's mostly Palestinian Muslims and Jews that have the most conflict going on. And this all goes back to a long time ago when the Jews were forced out of their land in the Middle East, which is when we see the spread of Judaism to Eastern Europe. If we fast forward a couple hundred years, we see that the nation of Israel becomes formed as an official homeland for the Jews to return to after World War II. So there were Palestinian Muslims there and Jews were there. The Jews were forced out. The Jews come back a couple hundred years later. The Muslims, the Palestinian Muslims, they never went anywhere. They were able to stay right there. So the issue comes is that while all of these 3 faiths are in the same area at the same time, that big increase in Jews that are returning to this area where the Muslims have been for centuries, that is what causes the biggest issue between these 2 religions. Northern Ireland. So in Northern Ireland, it is a little bit of an interesting conflict because both sides are part of Christianity. The conflict, which is centuries old, it goes back way, way back, it's between Protestants and Catholics. Now, the conflict itself isn't based on a religious difference necessarily, but rather a political one. In Northern Ireland, so the light tan color portion of the map right up here at the top, this is all Northern Ireland here. In Northern Ireland, it's mainly Protestant, and they believe that Ireland should remain part of the United Kingdom. Others there, who are mostly Catholic, believe that Northern Ireland should leave the United Kingdom and become part of the Republic of Ireland, which is the brown colored portion of Ireland. So all the rest of Ireland there that I didn't circle originally, that's all the Republic of Ireland. How many of you remember reading the short story The Sniper in English your freshman year? If you have, then this story will make a lot more sense to you now that you understand the history behind it. If you have not read this short story before, I want you to click on the link. It's really short, and I'm pretty sure you're going to love it. It's probably one of my favorite short stories that you guys read in your English class in freshman year. So the conflict there is they're both Protestant groups, but the conflict is between Protestants and Catholics. Okay, they're both Christian groups. Let me rephrase that. Okay, here in India and Pakistan, this Kashmir region is going to be the area that is in conflict. So within India, you have two groups of people. You have Hindus, which make up the majority of the country, and Muslims, which are the minority. The area that is light orange on the larger of the two maps, right up here, all of this area here, this is all Kashmir, okay? And you can see that part of it is controlled by India and part of it is controlled by Pakistan, okay? In 1947, after a division of land and resources between these two countries, over 10 million people were on the move across the subcontinent. They were attempting to relocate. So Muslims were trying to move closer to Pakistan, which is predominantly Islamic, and Hindus were trying to move into India, which you should already know that it is mostly Hindu. So as these two groups are moving, there's violence is going to break out between them, and in the end, there was an estimated 1 million people that died during this time period. Area of Kashmir was a point of contention between these nations, as both wanted to have control over that area. They both felt like it was part of their country and that they should be able to control it. So in 1949, the United Nations places a ceasefire in effect in this area, but it's still something that they fight over this region still today. So we'll talk about this more when we get into more of our modern history, but for right now, you need to make sure you know that in this area, Muslims and Hindus are who are conflicting there. All right, two other places, different areas of the world. We have the Balkan Peninsula, which is right here. This is Italy. This is Europe, Asia. Here's your Arabian Peninsula. This is Africa, Northern Africa here. So this is the Balkan Peninsula in this area. And then you have the Horn of Africa, which over here is identified by this green area here, okay? So we're going to start on the Balkan Peninsula. In this region, there are three religious groups in conflict. You have Roman Catholicism, the Eastern Orthodox Church, as well as Islam. These two groups have such vastly different religious influences that have become intertwined with their politics, with their ethnic groups and their cultural groups, that it's like a powder keg. You're going to hear me describe this area like that when we get to our World War I unit, but it is like a powder keg, and it literally is just waiting to explode once you get all of these three religions in there that have such different viewpoints on things. Okay, moving on to the Horn of Africa. This conflict is strongest between Christians and Muslims. There are 5 countries located on the Horn of Africa. You have Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, and Sudan. And for many years, this area has been an area of power struggle between the British Empire. Egypt has wanted control. They've wanted control of the Red Sea. They wanted control of the Nile waters. But they also just want to have control over the countries in this area as well. Okay? So that's pretty much everything that you need to know for your notes for today. A real quick short video. SOL only requires that you know the religions that are in conflict in these areas. So that wraps up our notes for today. Next lecture, we are going to cover the empires and trade routes in the world around 1500. That's going to wrap up our unit. So by now, you should be pretty much done with your test study guide that I gave you maybe on the first or second day of class. If you have lost it, I am going to post it on our Google Classroom, and you can find it there. If you have questions, please remember that you can message me through the Remind app and ask me questions at any time. So don't forget that you have your test coming up probably next week. I would guess maybe by the end of this week, next week. So make sure you're staying on top of that. Next class, we are going to do like a living, breathing museum exhibit. You guys are going to become museum exhibits, and I'm really looking forward to what you're going to do. I'll see you then. Bye.